Hi, I'm Ben Clark. I am the archivist and historian here at the Marathon County Historical Society, and I wanted to share an interesting story from the archives. Specifically, it is dairy related, which is why we're in the Milking Time exhibit here at the Marathon County Historical Society. Seemed appropriate given the circumstances. So here's the photograph. It is, on the surface, a picture of a cow being milked, right? It's a very Wisconsin photograph in that regard. But most of the pictures that we have of cows being milked are not in front of a motel. This is in front of the Holiday Inn. Usually there's farmers, in farming clothes, not people in suits doing this. And certainly the gentleman milking the cow and many of the people in the crowd, yeah, they're probably not your usual demographic. So what's going on? And why are they all kind of laughing as though there's a joke that we're not really privy to here? Well, as it turns out, I had to do some digging. I needed to know what the deal was here. And what I found was that this is a milking competition between John Cannonberg, who was the mayor of Wausau, he's the guy milking the cow here, and Leroy Jonas Jr., who was at that time the chairman of the Board of Supervisors for Marathon County. The challenge had been issued actually the year previously in 1966. Little context here, June Dairy Month has been going on since 1939, officially at least. It was really an attempt to try to get people to just consume more dairy initially because that would help inflate prices, the demand, which would then help with the oversupply that we were dealing with at that time. But it quickly becomes, certainly by the 1940s, a celebration of dairy farming as a whole, often with a spectacle. It's a community engagement, right? It's an opportunity for people to, learn about stuff you can make with dairy. Come on, have a free dairy breakfast. As well as, there's pageantry. There's literally a pageant where we crown Alice in Dairyland every year for the state. So there's a lot going into this, right? But one of the aspects of this is an opportunity for people who might not know about dairy farming or the dairy industry to learn. And so, for example, here in 1967, there was an event where the service clubs in the Wausau area, the Kiwanis, the Rotary, the Optimists, those guys, they were going to get together and learn about dairy farming. They happened to hold this at the Holiday Inn. So, gets us back to the picture here. Milking competitions go back a ways. You see them pop up here and there over the years, often with public officials taking part. And I think one of the reasons that, this is exciting is that you have a chance to see, Marathon County, Wisconsin as a whole, we are a dairying community. Whether we are producing more dairy or not, it is our history, it's our legacy. And for most of the 20th century, there was an expectation that if you were the secretary of the Department of Agriculture, or the governor, or county board member, you should, even if you can't milk a cow, you should at least be willing to, humiliate yourself or give it a go. You should be game to take part. And that was sort of the idea here. Usually that ends up working out better for the county folks than for the city folks. But in this case, in 1966, when issuing the challenge, John Cannonberg knew, he grew up on a dairy farm, right? It had been years since he'd milked a cow, but he understood the basics. Whereas Leroy Jonas, he had never milked a cow in his life. So when the initial, challenge comes up in 1966, he says, he laughs it off and says, no, thanks. I love to, but I haven't met the right cow yet. Now, unfortunately, in response to this, Supervisor Block says, don't worry, I'll find you the right cow. And next year comes around, 1967. Once again, the challenge is issued by Mayor Cannonberg. And this time, Leroy Jonas Jr., chairman of the county board, he realizes, all right, it's time. The day comes around. It's the opening of the convention for the service clubs. Indeed, they do supply a cow. Her name is Lolly. She comes from the Zimmerman farm in the town of Easton. And so they step up, they shake hands, they flip a coin to see who's going to go first, and it comes up that Leroy Jonas is going to go first. So he sits down at the pail. He's got 2 minutes to get as much milk into the pail as he can, and he gets about 15/16. He does his best. 15/16 of an inch, I should say. So it turns out that that's not as good. And when Leroy Jonas gives up the stool and John Cannonberg sits down, timer starts, and it becomes very clear that he knows what he's doing. He ends up getting 2.5 inches. So there you go. Probably not surprising, but again, it's sort of a fun, are you willing to play the game as opposed to you have to win to be a true Wisconsinite here. So that's the story. It's an interesting picture. I was very surprised at uncovering all of this history, and I felt like it was a good opportunity to share it with you. And again, it is June Dairy Month, so there's lots of opportunities out in the community and all over Wisconsin to learn about dairy farming. So if you're interested in knowing more, now's a good time. It's also a great time to come in and see this exhibit, which I say not just because it's Dairy Month, but because it's actually coming down at the end of the summer. We have a new exhibit going up next year, so in the meantime, this will be taken down, so we have before the snow comes. So if you're interested in knowing about the dairy history here, and you want to, waiting for a chance, someone to nudge you to come in, now is the time. Or if you just want to see it again before it goes away forever, it's a good time to do that. So, thanks for watching.